So this has a tremendous impact, not only us today, but those who follow us. God willing, we'll all be here, but this is going to be a 10-year contract. And we have an opportunity now to rectify this situation. So I can only repeat, please do what you can. And what we're looking at here today is an example of what may be permeating throughout the entire village. This is the second delegate assembly in the last few months that we were not able to raise enough people to have a quorum. In the past, the last one, David cut it short. We were asked, bring it forward, and I think it's right, because those who have taken the time here to come should learn something, whether or not your fellow officers or delegates have not come here. So bear that in mind. I want to let everybody know that last week, for the first time in many months, we had a finance meeting. It wasn't tremendously attended, but it was very, very exciting. A lot of information was passed. We had 2 of our officers come. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it wasn't photographed. But note when the next finance meeting comes, because amongst the topics that were taken was the Millennium Agreement. What was also taken, and was covered in my article of this month, is we're getting closer to the new budget. Now, I think we all know, and if we don't know, 2021 has been operating on the 2020 budget because of the inability to have a delegate assembly because of the virus. One of the things that I'm bringing to fore, and those who are new here may not know, that this year's budget has a caveat that never happened in Century Village before. When the budget was presented to the delegate assembly in the past, it was either voted up or voted down, and there were instances where it was voted down, postponed, adjusted, and had to go back. Because of the change in the bylaws, this year, for the first time, it basically is line item by line item, and I don't mean getting involved in $150. So a lot of you have wants and desires. You're neither on the finance committee or an officer in UCO. Feel free to forward any items that you think you would like included, and for whatever reason, to me at UCO, which is Edward R. Grossman at unitedcivic.org. Those items will be reviewed and initially reviewed at the Finance Committee. And that's important. We know there's several hot button items that have prevailed throughout the years, and they're still going to be there. 2 that come to mind was the continuation of AMR, which is our bus service, and again with the buses, whether or not it's appropriate to have excursion buses. There are others, but those are the 2 that come to mind that has been historic. So feel free to send in any suggestions, and they will be taken up. I'm going to look down for the first time. I want to bring to everybody's attention, which I had mentioned before, that up until this week, our annual audited statement, while I had a preliminary statement, was not received, and our tax return for the year 2020 was not filed. During this past week, we received our annual audited statement, which is much earlier than we got in the prior years, because in the prior year, it didn't come out until October. This is June. I had hoped it would come out earlier, but in order to try to have a better performance next year, instead of waiting for the end of the year to submit financial information to our outside auditor. We're starting to submit it now, and I requested him to probably do a semi-audit starting on a quarterly basis, and that will expedite it. The most important part of the financial statement is that once again, the auditor gave us what you call a clean opinion, which means he reviewed and followed all the items necessary to prepare a clean certified report with no exceptions, and that he did. In regard to our tax return, the impact, thank God, because of the nature of our corporation, was under $4,000. So that didn't have a tremendous impact, and we've already sent in an estimate for next year. Another item, those of you, and I'm bringing it to your attention, it has been my intent since I become treasurer and since we had delegate assemblies to try to provide the most recent update of financial information at the time of the delegate assembly. In the past, sometimes it was a month behind, sometimes it was 2 months behind. It's my intent that we try to have it currently so that all of us have an idea of where we stand. And it has worked without really a hitch up until June. June was a little bit different. June just ended the day before yesterday. I prepared, and it's enclosed, a draft statement for June, and I never put the word draft in before, but I put it in this time because I felt that we're too close for me to present what I think is absolute, or as absolute as you can get in a financial statement that's not audited. The positive side of that statement is, on the bottom line, is that we are still within the budget, which was 2020. If you read my article, I said that could change, but as of this date, that's what's there. It's a hair's breadth under the budget, but that's enough to say we're doing okay. And basically, that's my report for today. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them if I know the answer. If I don't have the answer, I'll be more than glad to look it up for you. But in essence, we're still on positive ground.
All right.
Excuse me, good morning, I have a question.
Hi.
I hope this is the appropriate juncture. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm coming in on this very late, and I am not 100% versed in this Millennium Agreement. Could you give maybe a 60-second recap of, excuse me? Just a quick recap of what it is. And is there a deadline associated with this 75% of votes?
Yes, there is a deadline. We're already late on placing the new rent schedule. It should have been done in May. And the absolute cap on renegotiating the Millennium Amendment to the long-term lease. That's the lease of these facilities that we're
Right.
sitting in is the end of the year. So we're
December
really
30
under the gun to get
December
this.
31st.
Yes.
Okay, is there some deadline for the end of July when votes have to be in from associations?
We need these papers back
By what date?
by the end of July. Look, folks, these papers, and Fausto said it. I know it's boring and it's legalese, but you got to read them. And if you have problems with that paperwork, then you need to consult an attorney for the association. It's pretty well laid out in there, the step-by-step and the clock that you have to follow. All right?
And where does one get these papers?
What?
Where can I get, excuse me,
Which piece of paper?
these documents that you're referring to?
They were sent out Wait a minute. Where is the Millennium Agreement?
No, these documents that you're referring to.
Yes, 4, 5, 6 pages. They were sent to every association.
Okay, I never got a copy. How can I get a copy?
Your president should have gotten it.
Okay,
All
Come
right,
to the
look.
UCO office front desk. We'll be happy to give you a
Exactly.
copy.
that's what I needed to know. UCO front desk.
Oh yeah, of course. Come into UCO office. Sure, we'll give you copies.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Excuse me, Dave?
Hold on.
Ma'am? Ma'am? We have additional copies here at the theater. They're just outside when you walk out.
Thank
All right? If you run into me in the lobby, I'll make sure you get them, all right?
What? All right. Folks, it's nice. It's really pleasant when a dozen people yell and scream at the same time. All right? We got 2 microphones up front. If you wish to be heard, the floor will shortly be open, and everyone will have an opportunity to be heard. Okay? Are there any questions on Ed's report? Where am I looking, Ruth? All right, somebody's standing up here.
What percentage,
You're going to have to speak up.
how much did it cost in the settlement that wasn't paid by insurance on the,
15K.
I think
We had to pay the deductible. Originally, the plaintiff wanted $135,000. The negotiation brought it down to about 65, and most of that, minus the deductible of 15K that I believe was already mentioned, was paid by insurance. 15K, $15,000. Okay. Yes, dear.
This is for George. You mentioned something about the AMR being a bus.
That was a misspeak. That
Yes,
was the
it was.
ambulance.
It's the ambulance. That's all I wanted to say.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people caught that one. It's no big thing. It's a minor misspeak. Go ahead, George.
I was just going to take the microphone around.
What?
I was going to take the microphone around.
Oh, okay. Any further questions on the treasurer's report? I will say from a personal point of view, how many of you remember Marie Oliver? Long time ago. Marie, bless her soul, used to get up, give the treasurer's report. We took in X, we spent Y, our balance is. Thank you very much. No, George, Ed, don't get upset. All right. Are there any further questions? Where?
I got one in the back.
Oh, okay. Well, you're way out there.
Wait a minute.
God.
Is there any way presidents could get together and volunteer to come and help call other presidents to get them on board, get them signed? I am a notary, and I could do it on Sundays and help out to try to get that 75% that we
Wow.
need.
All right. Anyone who wants to volunteer to help us, sure, we can use help. I don't know how many have been returned to date, but it's not 75%. I guarantee that. All right? Listen, if you are willing to volunteer at UCO, we can use you. I want to point out, this package was put together by our CAM. Thank you very much. We need volunteers. This is really not part of his job, and he spent many hours over and above putting this together, making hundreds of copies. We need volunteers in UCO. If things get bad enough, we need an admin. And we've been in need, and if it gets bad enough, we might have to go to a pay status and call the office management team across the street. I don't want to do that. So if you want to volunteer in UCO, please step up. Just come in. All right. Okay, I think the treasurer's report has been gone over. I don't see any other questions. So why don't we move on to Donald, the property manager's report. Turn on the mic.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I just want to, some of this is repetition. Dave mentioned that there was a hearing yesterday at the Zoning Commission down at the Vista Center. Between 60 and 70 Century Villagers showed up for that meeting. They took the time, and they nearly filled up every seat in the room. For those of you who took that time and made the effort to get down there, I want to thank you personally. I think that showing sent a clear message to both our government and to the developer. And for what it's worth, I really think it helped the effort. So from me, thank you. Secondly, Dom mentioned that we have a storm coming. The storm is named Elsa, like the lion from Born Free. As of today, it looks like it will hit us in this area on Monday morning early. That may change. It looks at this point to be just really a wind and rain event, nothing to get, but that could change as well. And I want to reiterate, now's as good a time as ever. Just get out there, walk around your property, pots, flower pots, anything you see, get them out of the way. Let's just batten down the hatches. You'll notice that the tree trimming effort is still going on across the community. Both in the residential sections and Yuko property and WPRF. And they're all pretty much being done by the same vendor, Timberland. It's a good idea for you guys to get out there and make sure that your building's trees are trimmed back right about now. Make sure nothing's touching the building and nothing's going to topple over. Just one last thing. For those of you who have not picked up your insurance flash drives, from Yuko Insurance. Just stop by Yuko and pick up those flash drives, and you need to have that for your association records. And that's all I have for now, unless anyone has any questions pretty much about anything, okay? Thank you.
Any questions for Cam?
Donald, the flash drives were given to the management companies to deliver them to the associations.
Yes, thanks, Fausto. Yeah, we're aware of that. Tony asked me to make this announcement because there are some still at the Yuko office.
All right. Any questions? Comments? Going?
Oh, got one here. Come on down.
Oh, go ahead.
Stay there.
Come on down. Take your time.
Oh, boy.
Stay there. We're right over here.
Thank you, George.
George is okay. Good
Mary
morning.
Walsh, Hastings G.
Hi, Mrs. Walsh. We spoke yesterday, I believe.
I believe we did,
Yeah.
yes. My question is, I have friends that live in different associations that don't know spit of nothing about what I've been talking about for a month, the Millennium Agreement. How do I help? I mean, I'm...
That's a good
You know,
question. Word of mouth.
The president's not here, the secretary's here some of the times, but not all of the time. So I gave them the letter yesterday. That I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to start. I've learned here that word of mouth is a very effective tool of getting simple messages out in this village. But I think that getting out that copy of that letter to the unit owners, if not just the board members, is a very good idea. And each of us knows several people that we, in the village. Get it out, absolutely. You need copies? Come to Yuko. I'll make them for you. All right.
All right.
Got a couple over here, David.
Oh, I didn't see
Thank you,
it.
George.
George, where are you? Working out.
Hi, Donald. Mary Ann Rodriguez, Somerset G.
Good morning.
Good morning. We discussed, Donald and I, the flooding by the tennis court. There is one big grade there, and it must be filled with something because with even a minor rain, it's just flooding all the way up to the tennis court.
Yeah, there is a storm drain in that area, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, there is.
I don't think that Hinterland Group has gotten to your section yet, but they are not.
This is for operations.
Yeah, it's for operating. Well, actually, it's for us. This is a storm. This is a UCO service storm drain. They'll get to you eventually, Marianne. They're just not done yet. Okay. All right.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Donald.
Thank you.
I'm not aware of any unfinished business. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there any new business to come before delegate assembly? This is a time where you might want to be suggesting motions or...
Hold on.
No? Hold on. George is bringing you to Mike.
All right.
Can you tell us who you are?
I'm Terry Burney. I'm Northampton N.
Hi.
All right. I have a problem with this Millennium, obviously, agreement, like everybody does. We all know the best situation is we come up with an agreement, they lower our prices, they take over all our facilities and fix them all up. It's awesome, okay? What's the worst case scenario? What's the drop dead January 1st, 2022? What's the worst case scenario?
You mean if we have not reached an agreement?
No agreement.
Goes
no agreement.
to arbitration?
All right.
There'll be a three-man arbitration board. We will appoint one arbitrator. Management, WPRF, will appoint a second arbitrator. They will agree upon a third arbitrator. And the arbitration will, for the most part, be binding.
Okay. So we lose the arbitration. Worst case scenario. What
There
happened?
could be significant increases.
Last time, I was here last month, and they were saying $2.50 the first year and then $1.50 more the second year. And the gentleman, the treasurer, just said it was going to double the first year. So how does that
Rent
add
is,
up?
the rent is already subject to arbitration since no agreement could be made. Now, this lack of agreement is really something of a false flag. This is a matter of timing. It was supposed to be done by the end of May, and it wasn't. I don't think there's going to be any big problem with the rent. In fact, a motion...
You don't think it's going to double?
No, certainly not.
Is that what he was just saying? It's potentially going to go up $10 million?
I'm not sure. No. That's another issue. I want to remind you what Ed was talking about. I don't know if he mentioned it. We're on the hook here, according to the agreement, for massive improvements and upgrades to the air conditioning, HVAC, and they're going to put a new roof on the building. What they call TPO. It's kind of like a polyvinyl olefin, a membrane roof. You're talking a lot of money. You're talking
again, that's
easily $10 million. The current budget is more like 4 or 5. Sure, it could double if those things are approved, but that's going to come before the operations committee, and it's no guarantee that this will all be approved as management has requested it. All right,
so what's the worst case scenario? We lose the thing. How much is our payments going to go up? Worst case.
In that case, Ed is correct. It could double.
In the first year, it's going to double.
It could, sure.
And that's to the WPRF or that's to UCO?
That's WPRF.
I thought they weren't paying for the roof. I thought they weren't paying for the air conditioner. I thought we had to pay for that.
We do.
Paying it through WPRF, so they're going to pay for it. We're just paying them to pay for
It's
it.
going to show up in that coupon you get. Remember, you get a coupon. It's about, $136 a month now, average. Imagine if you add $10 million to that budget.
$10 million annually?
Sure.
To
Well,
fix
it
the
won't
roof,
be-
to fix the roof and the air conditioning, $10 million a year for the next 10
No,
years.
no, no. No, these are one-time charges. It's not going to be per year. That the air conditioning is having problems, and there are some leaks in the roof. But there may be more economical solutions. Okay?
You know, I just think it's just, to me, it's all, if you guys are not explaining it. It's not in black and white. Half the people here at least don't understand. That woman who just came up before, you know, obviously she's new to the thing and she found out about it and she had an interest in it where she hadn't had an interest before, okay? There's not enough interest out there. How many associations, you guys aren't giving the numbers out, so obviously you're way far from the 75%, okay? My association voted against it, even though I stood up there and said, let's vote for it. They voted against it because they didn't understand it for whatever reason. I said, we might as well give these guys a chance to negotiate for us. What do we got to lose, okay? The worst they can do is make a bad deal. We already got a bad deal, okay? But you know, when the lawyer was here last time, he was talking about nobody pays for the you know, the roof and the insurance. Well, it's a triple net lease. Half the buildings in the country, half the corporations in the country are run that way, okay? Everybody was saying, these guys are making $8 or $10 million on us, which is a lot of money. What they're collecting 12 and they're making 8, that's a lot of money, okay? But it's not real estate to them, it's a business to them. They're saying, we're making this business, we're not giving up this money. This is a big hedge fund or whatever they are out of New York. They're not gonna walk away from making this kind of money. So, you know, what are our options? Can we buy the properties from them? You guys were saying the properties are worth $16 to $18 million. Is that true? That's what you were saying last meeting?
Where it depends. If you want to look at the property appraisers,
Okay, but
opinion,
it's not property appraisals.
Of course
it's a
not.
business. It's a business because
That's
they
right.
couldn't take this and turn it into a Holiday Inn or any kind of a hotel or a golf range. They couldn't change it. They have to keep it like it is. So it's not a property, it's a business to them. So how much is the business worth? If you're making $8 million a year off of it, it's not worth $16 million, it's worth 50, 60, 80 million dollars.
right?
And they paid, what'd you say they paid for it in 99? $23 million?
That's approximately what
They
they
paid
paid.
in 1999.
Benenson paid to purchase the rec
so
facility.
how can we possibly say it's only worth 16, 18 million dollars if they paid 23 million for it 21 years ago?
Is there a question in there somewhere, sir?
No, my question is that you guys are telling people that they're ripping us off, and yeah, they probably are ripping us off. They're a business. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're born to do, okay? They make as much money as they possibly can off of people, especially people who don't fight back against them. So that was my reasoning for giving you guys the right to say, hey, go for it, fight back against these guys, okay? But the bottom line is, you telling everybody that the properties are only worth $16 to $18 million is a bunch of
Who's
BS.
telling
It's
you
worth
that?
way more than that.
Nobody in Yuko is saying that.
The last meeting, they said $16 to $18 million is what the properties was worth, and they're making
You're
$8
talking
million
about
a year.
property appraiser numbers.
All right,
They're
but
meaningless
But
on
it's
the
not
open market.
Okay, but this is not a property. This is a business.
So what's your point?
My point is that nobody understands what you guys are doing, okay? Nobody here understands what you guys are doing.
Sir, if you would have invited any one of the 4 vice presidents to attend your meeting that you had at your building, we would have been more than happy to explain it to you.
Well, okay, and what about the other 308 people?
It's open. Did you hear what I said? We're open. I have offered my services, and every vice president here has offered to attend a meeting to explain what goes on. We explain it every day on the phone or in person. If you ask.
And there's only 114 people here. We don't have a quorum, and whatever you're doing, okay, it's not working. So I don't know what the answer is. I've never been in a situation like you guys are in. Thank God. I don't want your position. Trust me. But whatever you're doing ain't working.
David,
Thank you.
David, could I say something?
Where are we? Ed. Go ahead, Ed. Briefly, Ed.
It's very brief. The answer is that you're only looking at one side of the coin. We've engaged an appraiser. We looked at whether it pays to buy the building. This wasn't just an arbitrary situation. You said we're only going to pay for this one time. How do we know? This building is, what, 50 years old? Tomorrow something else could go. So the answer is, it's not that WPRF is paying for it. We're paying for it. Now, the law is the law. I'm not the lawyer. He was here. Many people thought over a period of time that they didn't have to offer it for sale. That's not true. Under the law, I believe after 10 years, they have to offer it for sale. Now, another Century Village, Deerfield Beach, bought the property. I welcome you to call them and see how they feel about it, because they did it very smart, and not only did they do it smart, they've taken a different interest. They're more interested in improving, because right now, every penny we spend goes into somebody else's property. So we're not looking about just today, 10 million. They also told us they got to take down half the ceilings in the building. Tomorrow, if a part of this building collapses, like happened to another condominium, who's going to pay for that? We are. So it's not just today. And as Fausto said, in any one of the offices, including myself, come into the building, to the office. The lawyer will give another explanation. You're going to have more meetings. So I appreciate your position, and I don't take as a fact that no one understands it, because I could tell you I went through my whole building, and they are so anxious that people volunteered. I mentioned that earlier. And other buildings have already accomplished it. Will we get 75%? I don't know. You asked a very interesting question that was answered the other day. What if we don't win the arbitration? Well, if you don't win the arbitration, you can go to court. What if you don't win in court? I can't tell you the answer to that, because we try to get an appraiser into this property to get an idea of what it's worth, and we were refused. So I don't minimize the understanding of the other people here. They will make their own decision, and a lot of those people have been here 10, 12, 14, 20 years, and I got to tell you, when you used to listen at the pools, why are we paying to fix someone else's property? Now, the law has 7 or 8 points, which you may not know, that if you reach those points, and you can correct me, David, you don't even have to go to arbitration, and you're allowed to rework the entire agreement. Now, you're looking at only one part of the agreement. I look at another part. We are under rules which are not set by us. To use the building for certain purposes is not necessarily set by us. I can tell you personally, and a lot of you know, I put out a newspaper here for 4 years. I wasn't allowed to put it in the building, okay? So those things come into play. And if we get 75%, that's what the law is. Can we change the law? I don't think so. So again, I'm going to repeat this, and I do that very often. I give the people here a lot of credit. They feel what they feel. You're entitled to feel what you feel.